For the most part, there actually isn't too much that you should be worried about going into this film. I can't imagine that much of the content would be particularly upsetting or confronting or uncomfortable for too many people. The violence, for example, there really isn't any. There's one scene in a bar when a man approaches a group of people and there's a bit of shouting and push and shove, but that's about as heavy as it gets. There's another scene where there's an argument between two men. Again, it's not really yelling or shouting, it's very controlled, the arguing, and it results in one man sort of poking the other man in the chest just to drive home his point. The film actually opens on a theatrical scene of actors on stage and they're slumped over, they've been killed in some kind of battle, you assume. It's very theatrical, you very much get the sense that these are just actors playing the parts of dead bodies, and they have swords sticking out of them and very, very not real looking theatrical blood over them. Again, it's for comic effect. But that really is it. That's the violence in the film. The sex is a little bit more complicated. While you don't actually see any sex take place, it is a theme through the film. One couple they have quite an unusual relationship. So he has an extramarital affair. He has this other woman on the side. You don't actually see the sex, but you understand very clearly that they are having a sexual relationship because the original couple, the married couple, have abstained from sex, and this is actually discussed a few times through the film. So you see this extramarital affair, you see this couple in bed together, they're sleeping, and there's cleverly draped sheets over them, so while you assume that they're fully nude, you don't actually see any nudity. So this is a theme that kind of goes through the film about this unusual relationship that these three people have, and the question of who is aware of who, and is there any kind of damage or consequences because of this unusual relationship. There's a very vague homosexual relationship in the film. It appears that there's a man flirting with another man, but again, you'd probably even miss it if you weren't looking for it. There is one kissing scene, but again, that really is about it. Drugs don't have any presence in the film, certainly not illegal drugs. If you're looking really closely, you might see some medicine bottles on a bedside table, but again, you probably won't even see it. It's in the background and it's slightly out of focus. And some medications are mentioned, and these are kind of 1930s medications like arsenic. So you'll hear that mentioned, but that's about it. Alcohol does have a stronger presence in the film. There are quite a few party scenes or celebratory scenes, and you see people with glasses of champagne and beer and wine, spirits and so on. People toast certain events with glasses of what looks like whiskey and things like that. Likewise, smoking has a presence in the film as well, at being a film set in high society in New York in the 1930s, when smoking was considered to be quite a classy thing to do, unlike today. So yes, quite a few people do smoke in the film as well. But that really is it in terms of the content. Where the film becomes a little bit more interesting, and where what I really want to talk about is the themes in the film. And for me, there's another film out at the moment called Marguerite, which also addresses Florence Foster Jenkins. It's not a true adaptation of her story. Marguerite is influenced by the story of Foster Jenkins, but I find that film to be far more gritty and far more detailed when it's looking at the idea of this woman who is actually tone deaf, but her aspiration is to be a singer, and an opera singer no less, and everyone around her, because she surrounds herself with yes people who adore her mostly because of her money and her social status. These people adore her and they build her up into something which is make-believe. And this is the relevance that I think is very interesting in today's society, the way we choose our heroes, the way we choose to put certain people and not others up onto a pedestal. Why we think that those people are worthy of fame and celebrity, and why it is that we choose to kind of throw our interest and our support by these people, particularly some people who we might regard as talentless. And you just have to look around you on social media at the moment and in reality TV, and there's certain people where I think you would have to question, are they really talented, or what is it about them that we choose to kind of to adore about them. So that I find really interesting. And again, Marguerite addresses this, but this film doesn't. The idea of how damaging that can be, to basically live a lie and to perpetuate that lie. Is that a form of betrayal, or is that a form of support? Is it a form of love? But then on the flip side of that, and I think this is where the Florence Foster Jenkins, this film, does succeed, the idea that, well, why do you have to be talented to do what you love? If you want to be a singer, why can't you be a singer? Why do you have to go onto a stage and be, booed off by an expert, and like a legitimate expert who says, no, I'm sorry, you're not good enough? If you want to sing your heart out, and again, here we are in a society where perhaps we need the beauty, the magic of voice and music and positivity more than ever, and we have this tendency to pull people down. So that is probably the most interesting thing you can take from this film, the idea of, well, she loved what she did. She adored music and opera, and she went for it. So is there anything wrong with that? I mean, surely that's a good thing, just to be who you are, and who cares what people think. Sadly, however, she really isn't very talented. And Meryl Streep does a remarkable job of manipulating her voice so that she actually almost touches some notes, but then doesn't quite get there. I'm sure as a legitimate singer, like we know Meryl is, that must have been quite a difficult thing to do. So, if you're going to go for anything for this film, go for her performance and the very, very touching, possibly career best performance of Hugh Grant. If you want to find out a little bit more about my thoughts on the film and what the critics thought, take a look at my website, cinemum.net. Otherwise, let me know what you think of the film.